about heartbreak and doing this big, massive thing to lose all your respect. But have you ever been with a man that made you lose your respect for him over time? Like it was just one disappointment after another disappointment after another disappointment. Like it just seemingly never ended to the point where you didn't look at him the same. You wasn't as attracted to him. But because it wasn't so massive, this huge break in the trust or the relationship, you stayed. Month after month, year after year. Your friends told you, girl, if you so unhappy, why are you still there? If you so unhappy, just go get somebody else. But you didn't want to jump ship for something that could be resolved or something that wasn't this big deal, or maybe everybody got their imperfections and maybe you just thinking too much into it. Like, you ever been there before? Like in that place of uncertainty? It's very gray area with this guy. Like, you're complaining, you're asking him for things. He's not all bad, but he's just not cutting it. That man's just a walking, talking disappointment, and you're trying not to be messed up about it, but it is what it is. You can't help but be disappointed by this dude, it's seemingly. Or maybe there are actual things he's doing, and that's the disappointment. But because it's not so traumatic, it hasn't given you the conviction to really just go ahead and cut ties. But you cannot deny that y'all's bond, y'all's intimacy is just not what it was. Put I down in the chat if you can relate to any of that. Put I down in the chat. I got an interesting question here from a young lady that watched my masterclass. Like I said, today's the last day to get access to Secrets to Attracting Alpha Males Only. And that's apparently one of my most effective masterclasses I've done. And it's free, by the way. The link should be there at the bottom. Anyway, the question she had was like basically when to stay or when to leave. And I understand that's a tough place to be. And it's hard to just answer that. So I got on the Zoom with her and she gave me all of these different things, but then she started doing what a lot of y'all do. She started blaming herself. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. Maybe I'm just stressed out right now. Maybe I'm just, and I said, sis, let me tell you something. There are situations where the problem is you, and there's situations, of course, that he could be fixing, but stop invalidating, and this is for all of y'all too, stop invalidating what you're feeling. It's a signal that something needs to be resolved. There's no reason why you should be in a relationship that does not have you waking up every day saying, I never knew love could feel like this. I never knew I could be cared for so well. I could feel so protected and safe in the presence and the covering of a man. I never knew. Like, that's how you should be feeling every single day. No, happiness ain't, no, every day. And the reason why I say should is not that the moment that it deviates from that, you just leave, but you get back to that. Do not settle for a relationship that brings down your quality of life. You can do bad all by yourself. It should be an upgrade from your singleness. If not, you shouldn't be there. Nonetheless, I'm gonna tell you why your man might be disappointing you over and over again. That way you can understand if the problem is, quote unquote, you, which more than likely is not, by the way, or if the problem is that the two of y'all are just not a fit for each other. And you can take away that uncertainty off top. First, and I'm gonna start with the best case scenario to the absolute worst, because it's not saying good, but there's some situations that's just a little different. First, the first reason why he might be disappointing you so much is because he does feel like you're asking for perfection. Like nothing he ever does is good enough, therefore, why even try? And now there's this ongoing disappointment, and it may be that he's in a survival mode, but it's not like his actual internal wellness is not up to par, but survival mode of let the relationship just be the absolute minimum it could be to survive and to function. But I can't give more than that. That's what he's thinking. Best case scenario, by the way. I'm giving benefit of the doubt because sometimes that happens. A man can get so discouraged because it feels like you're asking for this, asking for that. So like I told her, I went down all of these, by the way, with her, and I'm telling y'all the same thing. You can check that list off. If you've been telling him to do things and you're comparing him to other men on Instagram or your daddy or something like that, you could be the one that's setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're going to continue to be disappointed. Or maybe y'all need to have a conversation, something like that, so you can establish what you do value about what he does and what the next step is so he can better meet your emotional needs and create space for you to do the same for him. Okay? Best case scenario, giving my brothers a benefit of the doubt. Now, it also could be that outwardly he's okay and therefore you're asking of things from this man, but inwardly he's imploding. Now, this could just strictly be, again, not something to personalize. and this is second best case scenario, don't personalize it. Oh, he don't respect me. He don't care about me or anything like that. But ask if he's okay. Have that conversation. And there are some men who are just not able, because of shame and the belief of masculinity, to just admit when they're really not okay. A lot of times men will lie to themselves and say they're okay when they're not okay. But I'm giving you like why this may be a season or the last couple of months. He's just been disappointing you and disappointing you. He may not be handling his own life stress very well, whether it's something to do at work, whether his money, whether he feels like at this point in his life, he should be so much further along. Whatever the case may be, he could look like he got it together. So therefore you're saying, babe, can you do this for me? Babe, I need you to do more of this. And he's not able to respond. And now it's the more stress that you add to that, if you will. I say you because you don't know. And of course, it's his place to communicate with you now. You can't read his mind. We always say that for y'all, but we don't understand. Y'all can't read our mind. And we the ones that like to keep stuff in. Different conversation. But the more stress, the more shame, and the more shut down. Okay. So again, that's something I believe can be resolved. You might get a third party involved. Maybe you just let him know you're available to talk about it. And not saying indefinitely tolerate this, but this is where you can have some grace, especially if you're letting him know you're not going to look at him any less if there's something that he's dealing with and he just needs some more compassion from you right now. This is for those of y'all who got a good man. Otherwise, he's shown you he's a good man. But right now, he's not showing up the way that you want him to. Now, let's get into some of the other reasons why, because that's the best case scenario I can give you. The next reason why a man might be just disappointing you is because he's being passive aggressive in trying to bring attention to how he's not happy about something. So sometimes what a man will do is he'll have needs that he's established, desires, whatever, he feels like you're falling short on. And instead of just straight up saying to you, hey, I want you to do this thing differently. I have a problem whenever you do this thing. And instead, I would like for us to try this. Instead of being straight up and saying that, he'll start taking away or pulling back from things that he knows that you like. Whether it's dates, time, words of affirmation, help around the house, whatever. That's passive aggressive. So now that he's doing that, hopefully in his mind, it puts you in a position where you start complaining. So you can feel what he felt first. And then secondly, he could say, well, why should I meet your needs if you ain't meeting mine? And now you have this tit for tat feeling, which of course is not helpful. It's destructive. It's actually childish. But this is where you can decide, oh, this guy right here is not on my level of maturity or communication. He does not resolve conflict in any kind of way I want to be a part of. So I'm out. You can decide if this is a situation. And how do you know? Bring up what it is you have a problem with. If the moment that you do, he deflects into how you ain't doing something for him and blah, 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 and you know he has not communicated with you already to give you an opportunity to understand where he's at or anything like that, cut him off. Cut him off. I know it's not going to be easy, but cut him off. Otherwise, you're going to reward him. But if you start responding well to that and he hasn't done his part to communicate with you long before then on what he needed, and he can't even point to a tangible, like you should have just known, or no. Cut him off if you want a mature relationship, by the way. That makes sense to anybody? Put facts if I'm speaking facts. Put facts if I'm speaking facts. Put facts down in the comments. Or if I'm speaking fiction, let me know. Another way that you know this man is going to continue to disappoint you is if he's gotten complacent. If he is complacent, he's comfortable. He feels like you ain't going nowhere. He feels like, why break it why fix it if it ain't broken? And it is broken, but he don't think it's broken. Why fix it if it ain't broken? You're trying to elevate, you're trying to progress. You want more, you want increase, right? You want a trajectory of upward, mobility in a relationship towards marriage or towards this or towards that. You want a new home. You want finances to get to a certain level. You want whatever it may be. And he's complacent. He's basically put you on the back burner, on the shelf right now while he focuses on everything else because he was only trained to get you but not to sustain you. And even less, he had not prepared to elevate you, which I believe an alpha male is going to do. So you got a good man, he'll sustain, like, oh, okay, cool, this is what you need. All right, cool, I'll give you exactly what you need and nothing else. But alpha men will actually help elevate you in life, take you to places you didn't even know that you could go before you met him. That's a different conversation. But if the man has gotten complacent or he's put you on a shelf, he's going to disappoint a growth-oriented woman. You can never be satisfied being stagnant, being in the same place this year that you were last year. That's one of the most painful things for a growth-oriented woman, to see that her life is not moving forward. Time is ticking. The days, you don't have unlimited days, years here. None of us do. And then seeing that with this man, everything's come to a standstill because he's good. So he's always going to disappoint you. And again, you get to make the decision if you want that or not, because that's what you're going to get. Another way that you can be sure this man is going to continue to disappoint you is if he's now realized that you can't save him from himself. Like this is a reason why you keep being disappointed with this man. What do I mean? I mean, there are a lot of men who go searching for relationships when they need to be searching for therapy. They need to be searching for healing. They need to be searching for closure with their parents or maybe the last girl, whatever. And there are a lot of men who will go for the instant gratification, the honeymoon stage with a woman as a way to distract them from the work that they need to do. And so what happens is a man will get with you, love bomb you, and not because he's a narcissist or trying to manipulate. He'll love bomb you because the initial feeling of being saved, rescued, escaping from all of that abandonment wound and trauma or whatever he got going on, it does feel blissful for him. It's not just the oxytocin and all the lovey-dovey stuff that he has with you. It's also the bliss, which is really just an illusion right now. It's a little flicker. It's just, that's all it is, a fleeting feeling of not being as wounded as he is because his mind ain't on it while it's on you. And you're getting an expression of that. All the conversation, all of the gifts, all of the money spent, all of the romance, all of the words of affirmation. You're just this, you're just that. And then boom, one day the honeymoon stage ends. You are an incredible woman, but you're human. You got your flaws. You got things that you need from him. You got days where you're not even your best self, right? And he needs to know how to handle that. You got ways that you need him to be accountable. You got all of these things that go into a real relationship. Or maybe you're just not new anymore, right? He's getting familiar. And now he's back to his default self, which was so devoid of fullness, wholeness, happiness, health. And he realized you can't save him from that. This relationship no longer feels like it's saving him from that. So the disappointment comes in now where he's deflated. He doesn't show up anymore. He's now broken again. Maybe he's going out searching for a new, a little fleeting feeling. You know what that means? But then you have situations where the man would just kind of shut down and he goes into like, it's almost dormant as a man. He's not doing anything for you. And that's because he's in despair, which he was before you came along. So again, if that man is refusing therapy, refusing to address the real issue, or if he's just blaming you, you know what you got to do. Now, these are the worst case scenarios. I gave y'all the best case scenario kind of in the middle, and now I'm gonna give y'all the worst case scenario, which happens a lot. He may be trying to sabotage the relationship until you break up with him. You see, you have a lot of men who for whatever reason and at some point establish they don't want to be in a relationship, not with you, for whatever reason. It don't mean that you're not good enough. It don't mean that you ain't holding it down. It don't mean that you don't have no value. He just may be looking at glitter thinking it's gold on the outside, thinking the grass is greener on the outside. He may be upset. He may, again, abandonment wounds cause a man to just run the moment things aren't so easy anymore. Whatever the case, he's decided he wants out, but he doesn't want to be the bad guy. He doesn't want to actually come forward and say, I don't want this relationship anymore. And if we really being real, a lot of times it's not that the man just don't want to be a bad guy. He don't want that bridge to be burned permanently. You see, if you're the one that breaks up with him, he has a much better chance of coming back later and saying, hey, I got myself together. I understand what you were saying, even though he knows now. I've seen the light. I talked to the lady. God showed me something, whatever. And then make amends, right? So the bridge isn't completely burned. But in a man's mind, if he's the one that leaves you, you may now resolve to say, okay, you ain't never coming back. You left me, you threw me away, you broke up with me, I'm done. And therefore, he doesn't have the chance to come back over that unburned bridge with more BS later on. So when you have a guy that doesn't want to be the bad guy, AKA really doesn't want to be the one that doesn't have control over the situation after the relationship ends, he may just sabotage the relationship by removing himself, neglecting you a little bit. Not too much, just neglect. It is too much, but I'm saying not too much in terms of it's so blatant where you know you got to go. It's just less and less. It's the decrease of his presence, his energy, his focus, his attention, his time. Because I got this going on. I got my mind all over the place. I got to get myself, I got to work. And that's sabotage. So you could be the one to say, okay, I got to go. Y'all ever had that happen? Now, I told you I was going to tell y'all, worst case scenario. And it's not like worst case scenario and it's an exception to the rule. Honestly, this happens way more often than what we would like to admit as men. And I say we, but I'm really, because all men are not the same. I say this all the time. Men are created equal, but all men don't move equally. This is for men who are not in their masculine core, men who are not alpha males. But those men, other men, will punish you by disappointing you. You see, whenever you talk to a man and you tell him your standards, you tell him, hey, this is what I'm into, this is what I'm not into, et cetera, et cetera. Any man, any smart man is going to be reading that. Now, his heart posture is going to determine what he does about it. If that man has a solid, genuine heart posture, as well as he's in his masculine core, so whatever it is that he intends, he can communicate through consistent action, then he's going to take that information and protect you from all of those things. Additionally, he's going to be careful with you in every place that you might still be a little tender from the things that you've gone through. But he's basically going to get that PhD in what it means to love you. And he's going to move accordingly so he can produce the properly loved version of you that can then pour into him, maximize him towards his full potential. That's what an alpha male does. On the other hand, there are men out here who will try to read you, get all this information, what you don't want, what you can't tolerate, et cetera, just so when it's convenient for them, they can punish you with those things. After they hook you, after they do enough where you're not going to just straight up just leave them, cut them off, they'll keep that information handy just so they can play with you and hit you where it hurts. Punishment. Now that's the disappointment. But again, a lot of men understand women have a threshold and they use this information to assess where your threshold is and they try to hit you just below that threshold. I don't know how many of y'all ever been in that situation. It's like just enough, whatever the belief is, because you got some men who believe you'll never leave no matter what they do. But you got a lot of men who say, okay, she will leave if she sees this, if I do this, if I say this. So let me do this just to whip her back into shape, punish her, get back at her. She pissed me off. She held me accountable. She called me out. She did whatever she did that wasn't in my control. Now I'm gonna get her, but just under where she actually leaves. That absolutely is narcissistic, a manipulator who's wanting to keep control of the relationship. Power and control is his MO. That's what's at his core of his intentions in his heart. Not growth, not elevation, not fulfillment in a relationship, not health. That's what an alpha male is on. There's a lot of people think alpha males are men who don't, beat their chest and go out here and they're just aggressive all over the place. No, alpha males are ones who are in their masculine core and understand how that complements with a woman who is in her feminine energy and how much power they can have together. Not against each other, not me versus you, but power together. So it's us against whatever, trying to keep us from getting to our goals and our full potential. And if you're a growth-oriented woman, if that's something that you're on, you have to understand there's no other man that's going to be programmed like that other than a true alpha male. Family-oriented alpha male, self-aware alpha male, an accountable alpha male. And all you need to do is understand how to position yourself and attract those men from your authentic self. Not by competing with other women or doing what a lot of people say. I'm not going to go too far in depth with that because I broke that down in the masterclass, Secrets to Attracting Alpha Males Only. And like I said before, today's the last day to get access to that. The encore, so if you haven't yet, again, it's free. It's right here down in the comments. You should see it down in the comments. Right here. It's pinned in the comments. Secrets to Attracting Alpha Males Only. Free masterclass. Now, I broke down how to recognize an alpha male, what things that he'll say and things that let you know if he's not an alpha male, And then from there, how you can connect authentically to that alpha male. The only problem is you're going to attract so many, you got to make sure you're able to choose because that's the problem I'm seeing a lot of women who watch that masterclass are running into. They don't even know how to make the choice because now there's multiple men of a high tier and they're so used to having dudes who can't cut it, like having more than one who would more than make for a great husband is kind of confusing. So if you don't have a problem with that, again, register for that masterclass. It's absolutely free. Over an hour, I drop those gems over there. And then you come back to the video. Because moral of the story is this. It's not about a good man. It's not about he has good intentions. It's about your experience with that man. That's the whole relationship. What is your experience with him? Not what you can identify as his characteristics. Not what he showed you once upon a time he was once upon a time capable of. But what is your ongoing experience with this man, and is it net positive or net negative as it relates to you becoming the best version of you? Because if you're with somebody and he hasn't done this huge abusive, narcissistic thing all at once, rather should I say, because some of it is covert. But if he hasn't done that and therefore you're going to stay with him, your standards are too low. Your standards shouldn't be so long as he doesn't do this absolutely horrible thing. Your standards have to be, he must have the capacity. He must show the track record, be able to prove to me that on an ongoing, consistent basis, we can grow together. Because you are already growing in your singleness, you don't need nobody that's going to take you downhill. And if you get with a man and y'all are not growing together, at some point you guys are going to grow apart. And there's going to be a disparity. And the more that you grow apart from this man while staying attached to this man in a relationship, the more you block the access of the man that's ready to take you to heights you never knew you could go to. But those are just my thoughts. I'm your internet big brother looking out for you, per usual. You know, I don't charge nothing for this, but all I ask is that you pay it forward if you found anything I said to be truthful, because we need more people who are going to share the truth as opposed to people who are spreading all of this misinformation around this stuff. So if you are one that is willing to spread the truth and bless somebody else the way that you just got blessed, hit that share button so somebody else on your timeline can get blessed the same way that you did. And if you want access to my masterclass before it comes down for good, Secrets to Attracting Alpha Males Only. I gave away the game in this one. The link is right here at the bottom. It's pinned. If you see that comment, click that. Go ahead, get over an hour where I'm dropping gems on how to attract the absolute highest caliber of men, alpha males. And it's free, by the way, but it won't be up for long. The link's right there. If you're on YouTube, it's at the top.